I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Zarina Zabrisky once again. Many of you will know from the channel her not only extraordinary bravery, courage, and persistence in covering what's happening in Ukraine, but in particular in Kherson. You'll also know that we've covered lots and lots of other issues as well, but we are going to focus back on that core one, the message which needs to get through, especially at this time in the so-called peace process. Zarina, I'm delighted and honored to welcome you back.
Well, Jonathan, thank you very much for your generous introduction, for your kind works, and for your support of Ukraine and everything that you do. It's an honor to work with you, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. And this we're framing this in particular because you've got, I think, a very powerful, very important, very pertinent objective at this time. Now, you've been able to cut through some of the sort of so-called media exhaustion or fatigue or whatever they call it. I know that's entirely disingenuous because Ukrainians are the ones doing the fighting, not the Western media and politicians. But you have had success in cutting through with this story about the human safari in Kherson. But unfortunately, these narratives, they come into the media like a firework and they blaze and then they disappear. Um, and that is morally outrageous. How are you trying to get this issue back into people's consciousnesses? And are you tying it to this so-called peace process that we are now seeing all the column inches devoted to?
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I wish the success was something quantifiable and could be defined in our profession, especially in the media. What is success, right? I don't even think it's applicable to this particular issue because we are talking about the new form of genocide. Human safari is something very new. uh, if you've never heard about it, imagine small drones, FPV drones that somebody would use for, say, recording a wedding or a sports events, being used to kill people in the streets, just ordinary civilians like you and I. This is what's happening in Kherson, in other areas of Ukrainian cities and towns and villages along the border. Because, of course, small drones cannot fly too far. By now, they can fly up to 30 kilometers, and there are various devices making them fly up to 60 kilometers. But that's it. We're not talking about big drones. If you are listening to news, you might hear every day Russia launched, for example, last night 111 drones. This is like talking about birds. They're eagles and they're sparrows. The 111 drones Russia launched last night are Shahid, Iranian made or Russian type Iranian made drones that could fly up to 600 kilometers. They can fly all the way into Europe. They can fly anywhere. They're like basically small planes, right? We're not talking about that. We're talking about small things, which is kind of the size of your arm, that carry explosives or just drop down and explode on impact and kill and injure people en masse. So in Kherson, which is only about 1 mile or 1 kilometer, whatever you use, away from the Russian troops, such drones kill several people a day sometimes, definitely injure up to 10 people a day. The numbers are horrifying. It's been going on for a year and a half. It's called now human safari. It has been studied and it has been recognized as war crimes and a crime against humanity by both the United Nations and Human Rights Watch in multiple reports. So it has been established. We have pretty much every major publication, every major channel covering human safari. You look at the New York Times, ABC News, the Times, the Guardian, Fox News, bipartisan, you will see that human safari has been covered. Yet, this new war crime hasn't planted yet in the collective consciousness. And there's a reason for it, because we are built, our psyche is built to protect ourselves from moral injury, as I am informed by professional psychologists. And that's why our defense mechanism is denial. We say, oh, this can't be possible, because if humans can hunt humans, we have to rethink our whole world picture. It's very damaging. And therefore, the reaction is to deny, to forget, and drop it. And here we come back to the success, Jonathan. What is success here? I would consider a breakthrough when the whole world knows what human safari is. That happened before with other genocides. Say, Holocaust, right? The Holocaust wasn't always the Holocaust. People didn't know what it was. After World War II, the Germans or Europeans were saying they did not know that the concentration camps existed. So here comes my next step, because I had the very, very questionable honor of breaking the story of human safari. I just happened to be there. There are not many foreign journalists in Kherson, and I'm the only one based there because it's very hard to get permits. There's so many complications. Most journalists come and go, and I'm very thankful to everyone who did that. It's very dangerous. So I was there. I recorded it. It took me several months to convince editors that, because editors are humans and they didn't want to believe it. Finally, we got enough evidence, enough eyewitness stories, enough recordings and photographs and videos to show the world that human safari, in fact, exists. And now it's raging in Kherson, in a small town called Nikopol in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, right across the Dnipro River from Zaporizhia nuclear power station, and other areas along the front. And currently, I'm co-organizing with a group of wonderful people all over the world a global rally, which is called Save Kherson and Stop Human Safari. Two very simple messages. And I can talk about this messages, Jonathan, or just checking in with you if you have another question for me.
Yes, I do, because I think people will say, well, hang on a second, is this taking place? What kind of scale and frequency is it taking place on? And is it sort of incidental? Is this just individual Russians doing horrific things for their own, psychopathic pleasure? Or are we looking at a systemic process here? And if it's systemic, are there any perceived strategic benefits? For instance, what I heard, which will strike people as outrageous, is that actually Russian drone pilots are using this to practice, to train before they're sent on what are considered military operations.
This is an excellent question. I'll start with the second part, with the purpose. It has now been established by the group of researchers for the United Nations in their latest report released on the 27th of October, the Independent Inquiry Committee of the United Nations. And it's an extensive report. It studies what is going on, not just in Kherson, but in the whole south of Ukraine. And they came to the conclusion that the main purpose of this is the forceful displacement of Ukrainians. And that's why this is a crime against humanity, which in turn leads us to the revelation that the whole line of command could be put on trial, say in The Hague for International Criminal Court, according to the international law. All the commanders, and they show how this whole chain works. I wrote an article about it for Euromaidan Press, leads all the way up to Putin. And actually, just as the arrest warrant was issued for Putin for kidnapping Ukrainian children, and now he can't travel very much, the same type of the arrest warrant can be, in theory, issued by the International Criminal Court for particularly forceful displacement of the people. But then there are other goals, and one of them is training the pilots, just as you have mentioned. There's a school, a pilot school in Rostov-na-Donu, where they train their pilots, according to my sources in the Special Forces of Ukraine. And then they're being sent to train both on the occupied bank of the Kherson region and in Zaporizhia. It's also a psychological war. They are weaponizing fear, which Russians do quite a lot. They use torture, they use informational warfare, they basically scare people to surrender, because the main goal of the informational war, of the combat propaganda, is a demoralization of the army and population of the adversary. So there are multiple goals, and here we have it. As for the frequencies and scale, I can tell you just from living there that I hear drones buzzing by my window when I work in Kherson pretty much every hour. And once or twice a day, I hear a drone exploding just outside of my window. And this is happening all around Kherson. Basically, the sky is infested, I'm sorry, with the drones. And I just got the latest numbers for the month of November here from the officials in Kherson. And there were, in one week, last week, there were 2,500 drones targeting Kherson. It's 2,500 drones in a week. And as far as casualties go, we have the numbers here. In 1 month, there were 94 civilians were injured or killed. From them, 12 died, either right on impact or from injuries, including one child, and 82 were injured, including two children. So we're talking about 100 people a month. And these are just numbers, but to translate it into regular human experience and life. This morning, I got a message from a very close friend of mine who had to leave his house 2 weeks ago because it was hit by artillery. He moved to another area, and this area is also being targeted. And he wrote to me that another person we both know was driving down the street in the so-called safe area, and his car, civilian car, was hit by a Russian FPV drone, and he was in coma for a few days, and just this morning he died. And these are the stories that I receive every day without exception. That's as far as the scale and frequency go.
And of course, you're taking this story around the US to lawmakers, policymakers, and others, as well as trying to raise the view of the public or understanding of what's going on here. And it comes at a critical time. So could you tell a little bit more about this extraordinary campaign and the rallies? I mean, first of all, it sounds like a logistical, well, extraordinary logistical undertaking, but of course you're doing it for a very good reason. What's unfolding here? What are you planning?
Right, not just the US, Jonathan, the UK is also the epicenter of the
We'll
rally.
be there. We'll be there for that. Absolutely.
We have uh, we have right now close to 30 cities, and of them 20 confirmed and have permits for rallies. I have to say that Germany is leading. We have multiple rallies in all the major cities and small towns in Germany. We have Spain, Denmark, Sweden. I mean, it's all on the website, and we are counting the cities as they're joining in. So you can go to humansafari.org. It's a very simple site. We, on purpose, they're just the cities mentioned, the rally, Stop Human Safari, Save Kherson, and then there are links to the resources of these reports that I have mentioned by the UN, by Human Rights Watch, by the Truth Hounds. There's a link to a documentary that I made in summer when things were seem to be horrible, but were actually much better than they are now. And it's called Kherson Human Safari. And it documents not just human safari, but the whole history of Kherson from the beginning of the full-scale invasion with all the horrifying Russian war crimes. But it's also an uplifting film because we show the beauty of Ukrainian soul. There's a lot of music, dance, food, laughter. And I just, as you can tell, I love Kherson, I love Ukraine, I love the south of Ukraine. So, and I think it did, I managed to get that wonderful spirit that I admire so much into the film. By now, it's been screened all over the world, and some of the cities are screening the film as a part of the rally. It's free. And the good thing about the rally that you can organize it in your city or in your town. We have the resources, we have photos, we have videos, we have poster ideas, but you can have your own creative spirit. Say, I'm not going to say where, but in one of the cities, people are flying a drone to show how it works. In another city, there will be an anti-drone tunnel built so people can walk through that and experience the absurdity of modern reality. Kherson is covered by nets, and they are fishing nets. I have actually obtained about a month ago one of the most surreal photographs in my journalistic practice. It's Angelina Jolie, the Hollywood star, standing inside of the anti-drone tunnel. So Angelina Jolie is covered by a fishing net, old fishing net, mind you. And that kind of went viral. So we have pictures like that. We have portraits of victims of the drone attacks. We have photographs of Kherson. All the resources are available. So the hope is that most people, once this rally has shaken the world over the weekend of the 13th and 14th of December, hear about human safari, recognize it exists. And then I have several meetings. I'm not going to go in detail, but I have the meetings scheduled with the US politicians and lawmakers in Washington, D.C., and I'm going to bring the both the materials and my reporting from Kherson and the photographs from around the world showing that people actually do care, to make politicians care as well. Because as we know, there's a law in political science: if 30% of the population is responding strongly to something, the politicians have to take action, as political scientists tell me. So here's your chance basically to change something in the world, because we need a different international law concerning the drone warfare. And it's not just about Kherson. That's about you. That's about any town. Because Russia just is one of the first country aggressors using drones to harm civilians. Things like this stick. Once other bad actors see that it can go unpunished, we will have drones flying everywhere. In fact, in Europe, unrecognized drones are flying anyway in Belgium, in Germany, in Denmark, in Holland, and their airports being closed because of that. So that will continue, and that is in the interest of any human being, to protect yourself from the danger from the sky. So that Stop Human Safari is translated into the action. Look into the laws. We need new laws because we have the new modern warfare. That's number one. Number two, Save Kherson is saving a city. This is an old European city. Actually, it's been around forever. It goes back to the ancient Skis and Sarmatians, and there are burial grounds there with Scythian gold, and it has marvelous architectural monuments and inheritance. And this city right now is being destroyed and turned into rubble. And it could be any city next, if we let Russia get away with that. And I have seen through my reporting, cities turned into rubble. For example, Pokrovsk right now, I've been reporting from there when it was intact. Konstantinovka, I've been reporting from there when it wasn't intact, but it was just slightly damaged. And now it's just a ghost town. You might have seen Bakhmut or Chasiv Yar or Avdiivka, these gray, ghostly, empty structures that look like skeletons. That's what they are turning Kherson into. And it's injured but still alive. And there's still time to stop it. So that's what we're trying to do with this rally. And then with the aftermath of speaking to politicians, I'm heading to Brussels next after Washington, D.C., and reaching to anyone I can to get the message out.
And the other area I wanted to focus on, I think this is the most frustrating thing in all the talk we have of peace and the so-called 28 points, almost certainly drafted in Moscow as someone by someone who's Moscow aligned. There is really no mention here of justice. Everything is running along very transactional lines. And yet, justice for those who were under occupation, justice for those who were killed and murdered in Mariupol and other places, those who've lost their homes, those who are still under fire, as you say, in Kherson. How can there be any sense of durable peace if there is no mention of justice and restitution, if there is no mention of Russia being culpable for all of these and no recognition of that? Does this also form part of your narrative, part of your process and motivation?
Thank you, Jonathan. Very important. And actually, I admitted talking about the so-called, I don't want to call it what they are calling it because it's a manipulation. I've studied, let's put it this way. I was forced to study Russian propaganda by the Soviets as a very young person in school. So I know exactly what they are doing because after that, I was a very bad student. I actually studied literature. I'm a writer by trade and by education. So, but the writers in the Soviet Union were forced to study combat propaganda if they spoke English, which I was a very bad student of. But later, in 2014, when Russia attacked Ukraine first, that's when the war started, I went back to the combat propaganda, revisited it, found some textbooks, and have been studying it ever since. And I have been writing about it, and I have been teaching seminars about it. And I can tell you that even just by repeating their words, we implanting and incepting their narratives and their myths. So what you see now, the lengthy, convoluted process happening now between various partners and various sides, including the US, the Russian Federation, Ukraine, the European Union, the UK, is nothing but a theater and a deflection and manipulation. While everybody and our unfortunately very gullible and very clueless media that I can only compare to a 5-year-old child in the level of sophistication, parroting and echoing the words that are planted into the information space by the Kremlin. There are a number of other processes going on behind the scenes. These processes have nothing to do with justice, democracy, or any abstract notions, Jonathan. These processes are all about the money, oil, gas, resources, and power. And that's a redistribution of the power. And that's basically sharing countries, territories, independent countries, sovereign countries, not unlike in the 1930s. And we have, if you are familiar with the term Potemkin village
Oh,
screen,
yes.
of what they are calling different names that I'm not going to repeat and that have nothing to do with genuine negotiations. Right now, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm invited to comment on many different channels, BBC right now is very interested. We don't have any peace negotiations at the moment. Are they possible? No, because also in the United States, at least before, we were familiar with the concept we do not negotiate with terrorists. It's senseless to have any kind of agreement with the mafia because mafia do not stick to agreements. Mafia take care of business in a different way. And in the Kremlin, we have mafia. I wrote about it ad nauseum as well. Putin is a former bandit from a somewhat smaller town, provincial, at the time when he was growing up, and he's exercising the bandit Peterburg, it was called, behaviors in the international space. And we should not be taking anything that is coming out of Kremlin not seriously. We shouldn't even be listening to that. The only way to deal with the mafia, with the bandits and terrorists, is force. Therefore, if you're asking for my solution, and I'm not a politician, I'm a journalist, but I'm a journalist in a supposedly still free country. I'm the American journalist, Zarina Zabrisky, and I say that the only way to finish this war is by uniting all the existing democratic forces, uh, given weapons and resources and frozen assets of the country aggressor to Ukraine and helping in every possible way to suppress Russia, at least minimally, and ideally defeat Russia and break its economy, which Ukraine, by the way, is now successfully doing. Very good practice of targeting the oil and gas resources, which is the main resource of the Russian Federation. The country is called a gas station. If we
Including
break
the
down
shadow fleet, which is something that the West has demonstrably failed to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to use very strong words, but I suppose saying that we have somewhat of an impotent reaction from and response from the European Union, UK, and US is fair at this point. Ukraine, on the other hand, is a good example of agency, uh, agency and proactive way of defense. And I believe all we can do now, and in our industry, in the news, we can support the truthful reporting of facts, such as war crimes, for instance, which should not be, by the way, dismissed or forgiven as parts of any pacts or any 28 points agreements or deals, because this is not a deal, by the way. Again, wrong vocabulary, but the war crimes reporting and demanding more sanctions on human rights violation is the right way to go.
And the last question here is, what outcomes would you like to see from the events that you're organizing, the pressure you're mounting, the injection of, I would say, hard truths into the informational sphere through what you're organizing? What would you like to see change in terms of sort of Western policy, and what actions would you like to see come out of it?
Well, a short-term goal is raising awareness, and having my goal is to get 30% of the global population recognizing human safari and knowing about the city of Kherson. That would be great if I can reach that, if our group organizing that can reach that. Long-term goal is to use this awareness and use this knowledge to lead to a number of actions, a number of legal and policy acts that would in turn help specifically the city of Kherson, such as defense mechanism, technologies, financial support for anti-drone defense, and to um, overall, Ukrainian armed forces support, such as, for instance, in Denmark, we see it's unprecedented, the military factory is opening now to produce the Flamingo fuel, Flamingo, the missiles made by Ukraine. So this is a very long-term goal, but basically the policies that will help Ukraine to win this war.
Well, I wish you absolute good fortune with this. It's incredibly worthy and powerful initiative you've got. I encourage people to check out the links that we're going to put in the description of this video so they can find out all about it, check your website where they can find out which cities the rallies are taking place in. And it goes without saying, if you can make it to these rallies, please do make your voices heard, put pressure on Western policymakers, and bring it home to them the reality that you cannot deal with terrorists, you cannot collude with terrorists, you cannot reward terrorism. And I think that's a powerful message to take away.
And if you cannot organize a rally, which is still an option, or if you can't attend one, you can still share the information in the information space on the internet. That's the power of the social media. Just by sharing the event, or by liking, by commenting, by helping the algorithm show it to as many people as possible, you will be helping to save a beautiful city with beautiful people and also protect yourself from the future drones buzzing above your head, which I can assure you is very, very unpleasant.
Zarina, thank you so much. Always a pleasure seeing you and always inspiring hearing what you are doing to make change for the better and to support Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jonathan.